we're going to review the essential components of a digital portfolio. And the reason I just want to bring a kind of closure to the first part of the activity that we did with this, when we reviewed the template. And now I just want to go over what potential content can look like. All right. What we would add to the template. So I have 2 links on the bootcamp. I have, my template here, and then I have, some core kind of basic information that I'm just going to take and I'm going to move into the template, just so that you can see what type of information you might want to add. And I know prior to this that we did go over, and you have an email that you've generated for yourself that includes some of the professional information that you would add to your portfolio. So let me just open this up. You should be able to access can you click on that and access that link of the document? Does that allow you to? When you go in, are you able to access that? When you see the essential components?
Which one?
Either one. So I can see, I have the template here. Now you have your own template, right? You should have your own template. So just on the template, if you remember, we had like a homepage image with just a title. Generally the title is, basically something that you're kind of going for in your career. The second slide is a little about me summary about yourself, highlighting, kind of what your focus is, where you're trying to head in your career. Skills and certifications is an area that, ultimately, you're adding to, you're developing over time. You have your projects and hands-on experiences, which, is, boot camps like this. It's courses you've taken, certifications you've done. And sometimes you might have 2 pages for this. I have a resume and cover slide. So within a digital portfolio, I think sometimes you may want to consider adding your resume if you feel like you want to share the whole resume. You may not want to share a cover letter on a digital portfolio to the world, and that cover letters are generally tailored to particular employers, where your digital portfolio is generally something you can share with everybody, and say, hey, this is me, this is what I'm good at, this is my background. Your decision to share your resume is just if you really feel like, someone really needs to see the resume to kind of understand you. I mean, a resume would be really helpful if you were, say, doing an interview, and when you were doing the interview, you wanted to include the resume in the interview. Like I've done interviews before for jobs where they asked me to create a presentation, and I just included the link to the resume in it, so that you could always say, hey, to the people hiring you within your portfolio, here's my resume, just so it's included. I think you do want to do, as you're kind of interested in IT, I have some questions you're going to work on a little bit later, just to kind of narrow that down in a little bit of research. Before you make a digital portfolio, you should think about, and some of you have already done this, you should really think about what your goals are, in terms of career. Are you looking for entry level? Are you looking for a specific entry level opportunity? What does that look like? So you can speak to it, so you can reference it. Then there's significant projects. So you may have done a big project that could be at your current job, that could be in your free time. And then, of course, if you have what's called social proof. Is anyone familiar with the term social proof? Anyone ever heard that term? It's kind of a relatively new term. It's like saying, I have 10,000 YouTube subscribers, or I have a LinkedIn profile that demonstrates my abilities or skills. I have a significant something that can be social proof. So like, if you say you have a certification to be social proof, the CompTIA certification, is a social proof, like putting that logo on something, because like the A+ logo on something when you're completed with the cert is social proof because people recognize the logo. It's something that people recognize that they can then kind of dedicate credit to you for. Like if I said to you, I have 1 million subscribers in Norway. Well, in Norway, maybe I'm popular, like that would be social proof in Norway, right? Like, particular thing that would just give you social proof. So social proof is anything that kind of is evidence of that you know what you're talking about. It can be a degree, it can be a certification, and you're in the process of acquiring a certification. So just, think about how adding a certification adds to the value of a digital portfolio. Like everyone recognizes like the CompTIA A+ logo, honestly. Like people recognize it all over the place. So like adding that to a social proof page as well as your, it helps. So just keep that in mind. It's a good, it helps build your, it helps build people's understanding of what your skills are. And that's the essential last slide. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to basically edit that particular template with some resources. So I included on this document, I included this link to this document. And I'm trying to do this so that you can replicate this process for yourself, okay? Now, the best way to update a digital portfolio is probably to not necessarily like create the portfolio first. I mean, I think it's great to have a template, but the first thing to do is collect the ideas. So what I have here is essentially, a list of, some text that I have, just some text generated around, some basic text that I think in our last boot camp you were able to like generate using the Google form. So you should have an email. Is someone looking for our class? So I have this document here. So feel free to use this document to like also influence like text you might want to use. So I'm going to take this text, the About Me summary. I'm an aspiring IT professional with a passion for troubleshooting. And what I want to do is just go into Canva and then actually do some edits and basically just take it to that next level. Just so you can see what it looks like when it's more filled out. So here's my template. It's not, please let me just connect to that account. I guess it's in my other account. That's the problem with multiple Canva accounts. Okay, so we'll make sure you can see that. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm just in Canva and I'm just gonna do like an abbreviated version so you can see what it should look like. It will take like 5-10 minutes. So I have my headshot in here, my AI generated dog, kind of figure out your template. Here is the section where you would essentially, select the text that maybe was added there. To add text in Canva, you just click on the text tool, add a text box. I need to unlock. The reason why I locked was because I didn't want to make any changes. So if you notice there's a lock on Canva pages, you can lock it. I'm going to unlock, add a text box, backspace, paste, and now I have that text from that page. And the cool thing about Canva is it makes it very easy to edit. So if you have your text, which some of you have your text from the form that we did, I pasted that text. I'm going to default text that text left. Just figure out my spacing a little bit. And then what you want to do is you just want to proofread edit as you would like any document. And then I'm going to take that out with the delete tool. And now I have that text there. Now you can figure out like what the best sizing is. You want things to be readable. You want it to be clean. You might not like the color scheme. You can go up here. You can change, maybe I want purple text. Maybe I want red text. I mean, you want to find a template that works well with what you're trying, professional, clean. And then the last time we were together, we edited, these areas. You could add additional links here. I added that link to the last page, the social proof page. So like if I go here, it actually goes to my untitled page at the end. So, just remember you have a lot of control in Canva. So that would be like the basic text for the About Me summary. Then let's grab more off so then the next thing would be the resume section. So what I did for sample text is I do have some simple entry-level text that has a short professional summary that describes some networking skills, technical skills, and some experience. So, this I think is a perfect amount of text for someone looking for an entry-level opportunity because it definitely displays like your knowledge technically, but then it also has some experience, and I definitely think you want to think about like what would be the best type of experience to include there. Because if you're going for a job, if you don't have the experience, just be careful what you add in that area. Like you could add, instead of experience, you could have certifications or courses. You could probably replace that and then maybe do something else with the slide around the certs. But basically you've taken this is a very abbreviated version of the resume, but it's in a very straightforward, quick format. And it might take a little bit of work to get your resume to like that level, like that piece of information to that like refined level of detail. So on the Canva, I'm going to scroll down. I think I had an extra slide here. I'm going to take this out. I'm going to just delete this one. I'm going to find my next slide. So I had a skills, and I have the resume and cover letter section. So I'm going to take this slide and I'm going to edit the text. I'm going to take cover letter off and just call it resume section. And these were all lines that I created as part of the template, but I'm just going to click on them and actually delete them by just clicking and then backspace. And then I'm going to paste my text in, Control V, and it goes in centered. I'm going to default it left. And then really, whenever you're doing anything resume related, like on any type of document, you just want to think about how the formatting is. For this one, you definitely want your name bolded, but it may be main headings bolded, but I would maybe take the bolding off anything that's not a main title. So in IT, the term networking is important, operating systems is important, technical tools is important, and the terms technical skills and any descriptions. So what I did was I took the bolding off of a couple items there. So let me fix this. And also you want to make sure that font sizes are consistent usually. And they're, the nice part about a portfolio, especially using Canva, is your ability to kind of be flexible with the sizing. I'm going to leave it just there. So I left my name in bold, the professional summary in bold. I made the skills heading bold still, operating systems, networking, technical tools, experience, and then the title of my internship. So just from a formatting perspective, that's highlighting, my summary, my name, my key skills, and my experience. So if someone looks at it quick, they get a quick look. There's also an opportunity here. You could like add a headshot or a photo if you had it really formatted to fit half the page. To do that, I would just downsize the text a bit and maybe pull it over. You could kind of, you don't want to lose skills here, but you could add an image to the right. I'll probably show that a different if you want to, but it looks like mine would look better actually extended full length. And also if you want to change the background, and maybe you don't want this, you want it to have a white background, not the gray, you can click up the top and change that color. And then it's a little brighter. Maybe you want to draw more attention to that one with your resume. All right, so let's go back to my document. That's my resume section. Now there's my projects. So these are just some sample projects. Now, when you're in a job or even in a course like today, we're going to do a little boot camp project where you're looking at hardware pieces. You could write a narrative for that experience, like reviewed hardware for the purpose of CompTIA skills assessment. This is a group of projects. You also might have an opportunity at your existing job or even a part-time job to do a little IT project, right? And when you do a little IT project at an existing job, or maybe you've been an intern or you've interned somewhere, or maybe you're just volunteering, don't forget volunteering as an opportunity for entry-level jobs, okay? I'll be honest, when I decided to go back to college after leaving school, I wasn't sure what to do with myself, but I knew I wanted to get into education on some level, right? And just like you want to get into IT on some level. Like I was lucky, I got into IT kind of through the side door. Now, what do you think I did that helped me, that was an instant thing that I did when I didn't have any experience with education? That was free, helped me network. What do you think I did?
Did you do like online courses and stuff?
Nope. I took a little break. I did start taking courses part-time. They were courses that I could transfer. But one of the best things I did was I volunteered for a children's health center. And I didn't even interact directly with children, actually. I actually did, I volunteered for their events. I worked with people at the company and did some filing. I just did basic things within an office environment with them, but it was a volunteer experience that added to my skill set. And I did it only 3 or 4 times. I did it only 3 or 4 times. Hi, how are you?
Sorry.
No, it's okay. That's okay. And I volunteered 3 or 4 times, but you know what? That volunteer experience is a bit on my resume for 20 years now, and it's with a good organization. So if you're struggling for an opportunity to do a project, get involved with IT, ask people if you can volunteer to help with a project. Like I had a summer project this past year, and I planned on having some students volunteer, and they weren't able to do it, but I was very open to having people help with projectors, help with taking computers apart. So volunteer opportunities can definitely lead to like getting something on your resume that establishes your credit. I'll share everything with you just in 1 second. Yep. So I'm going to take this section here, and they have automated ticket support, because even in a volunteer capacity, you may do a project, you may do an incident report, you might learn about a ticketing system. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to go back to, my portfolio. And this is an opportunity to put in the projects and hands-on experience place. You're going to go insert text. So we'll do a text box. I didn't have anything in here yet. I'm going to move that in there. take that text out, paste it, and I'm just gonna format it so that it fits. But definitely consider volunteering, because eventually you're gonna get an opportunity by putting yourself out there. That's the thing. People are sometimes afraid of putting themselves out there, but that's the only way to get opportunities, to be honest with you. Like, no one's gonna bring them to you. You kind of need to go for them. But it's not as much work as you think it is sometimes. Just so you know, it's not, it's more how you do it than worrying about it, you know? So I'm just gonna bullet these different projects and hands-on, and kind of tab, indent where possible. So, but I want you to recognize that these different experiences help build out people's awareness of what you've done. People don't know what you've done until you tell them. Okay, so you have to communicate that to people. If you've worked with a ticketing system, it's good to know. If you've done a little project, if you've built a computer, if anything that you've done that enhances your IT knowledge adds to your knowledge base. Not everybody is as eager as certain people to build, but the people who do build on their skills are the ones who ultimately are successful. So think about any project that you've done. So I just added this just to review two. You know, I copied and pasted it just to review. I took this, cut it, paste. I formatted it left, and I'm gonna leave it right here in that box. So now I'm gonna go back to my sample document. Okay. So just to kind of catch you up quick, this link right here is the document link. I can help you get on there. The bit.ly bootcamp 2 to get. You can type bit.ly bootcamp 2 DFE.
DFE?
And then you'll be able to follow.
Okay.
Yep.
Do I need to log in on my?
Not yet. We're gonna the CompTIA. Not yet. You should be okay. You might be prompted to log into your Google, but you should be okay. So yeah, no problem. So I'll get my monitor back up. So back, I wanted to kind of close the conversation about the digital portfolios, just so people kind of had example, because I felt like we did the template and you did create some of the content. I just want to show you like what can it look like when it's done. So we have the project section, and then we have a certificate. I have a certificate section, a technical skills section, a branding section, and then a blog post, and then contact information. So let's do this. I'm going to do the certificate, technical skills, and personal branding all in one process. All right. So I'm going to copy that text, and I'm recommending that you do the text for your portfolio ahead of the design piece. So you can use a template, but it's important to kind of have these components, right? So I'm going to go back now to my portfolio. Yes. Like I am recording this if you need it. Is that what you're asking, or like I'm making a speech? Like a presentation? This is a presentation that you could share, and I can show you how to share it. And you might have, so a digital portfolio It's not necessarily a speech. It's more like it's like a document that you create and then you put like on your LinkedIn profile. One of these items. Which one are you thinking of? When you say speech, what do you? So we have, the title slide. Then there's the about me, and then I left that. I'm going to take that out. I'm going to actually unlock this, and then I'm going to delete that because it's a duplicate. I have the skills insert, and then I have projects and hands-on experiences. So I'm going to actually remove this one now because that's kind of a duplicate, and I use this one. Then I added this is my professional summary, more or less. And then I have job and research career goals. I might just take that and then shift that box. And then I have significant career aspirations, which I'll probably put the last piece of text into. And then I have social proof, which we've talked a little bit about, where you can put your LinkedIn profile and items like that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put I'm going to put the items from here into a new text section, and then I'm going to move them around. So I'm going to paste them so they're here. So now I have all of them on this slide. And sometimes that's easier because you can move them easier. So I have certificates. So I'm going to go where I'm going to take this text, like, so say you've completed a certificate. I'm going to take that. I'm going to put that onto skills and certifications. So I'll put it here on the right side, and you can kind of design this the way you want, but just this would be how you would maybe indicate. You could also put the logo for CompTIA once you complete a CompTIA certificate. And you could also do expected, see that expected shows that you're involved with a program and you haven't finished it yet, but you're working on it. Then, so I did the certificate section. Now let's look at the technical skills. Now, some of this we covered in the profile piece. So we may just either add to that, but the profile piece right here, we can put the skills actually here. We want to reiterate the skills next to the certifications. And that's also good too if you're getting certain certifications within a program, because every program you do, you're going to get different certifications, right? Or different new skills. So you want to make sure that those skills are shown and represented. So I'm putting those here. And you also want to make sure that you define them, like what types of skills are they? Operating systems, networking, troubleshooting. All right. Then I'm going to go back down. I think I have a few more items to grab. Tools and platforms. And I'm going to move the tools and platforms up. And I think I'm going to leave the personal branding statement. This piece right here. It's kind of like, think of it like if sometimes they'll say something like, they'll call it like an elevator speech or like a personal branding statement. So it's essentially a statement. Like you write it like, this is what my goal is. This is what I want. And you're trying to be specific around telling people, like, I'm very passionate about working in technology. I'm looking for that opportunity. I'm taking a course. I'm putting this energy and time into the work. You know what I mean? I'm making a big effort in my career. Like, that's my next step. So this one particularly says, I am passionate about building secure and efficient IT systems that support organization success. I excel in finding practical solutions to technical challenges and thrive in collaborative environments. So you're basically trying to describe what type of person you are and what your work ethic is and why your interests are what they are the best you can. So you might say, I'm seeking, you could also say what type of opportunity you're seeking. Maybe you're seeking an internship. Maybe you are seeking like not a full-time job. Maybe you're seeking something different. Not everybody's seeking the same thing. So the portfolio is definitely like an opportunity to kind of show people who you are a little bit, and also just highlight what you want. It's your chance to kind of tell people like, oh, this is what I really want. Because when someone looks at it, they're going to see you, they're going to be interested in you. So you just want to make sure when you add text to this, you also are also making sure it's the same size. And then also remember the bolding and the non-bolding of certain areas. Make sure the headings are bolded as opposed to all the descriptors, networking, knowledge, subnetting. So these are all, remember, this is a good sample for you just to see like what types of terms would you include in a digital portfolio and what types of areas of learning. Because as you want to be able to showcase like what you know about, and especially if it's like a career change or you're moving into a different area, you want to be able to like break it out. So operating systems, networking, troubleshooting, tools and platforms. So like if you're doing an internship or you're doing like any sort of a new type of role, or even remember we talked about transferable skills, that's where you want to be able to put the skills. And then if you're doing certifications, you want to be able to showcase what your certifications are. So I would add a text box here just so people know this is like my, certifications. I mean, you could do a video version of this if you wanted to, in terms of like, if you wanted to make it more like a speech or you wanted to speak to things, you could like have like a little video section if you wanted to. You could add video links in here to YouTube or just a video that you have in your email. But you do want to think, I might add an extra piece of text there. I might move that up, and then I would maybe, I don't know if I would double write that or not, but you could. Just so people understood, this is the skills, this is my cert. But we're just, I just want you to see like how you would build one out and what you would include, because I feel like I think people get stuck sometimes, but it's not as complicated as you might think, especially if you plan it looking at something like this, where you write it out, and you see it like a document, and this also, so basically when we were together last time, we mapped this out a little bit. We thought about our summary, we thought about what skills we had, we thought about any projects, we thought about certification we were working on, we thought about technical skills. We maybe didn't go into the personal branding statement as much, but I think that takes time too. Like you kind of have to, I just wanted to give you an example of what it looks like. Now, you could have your own blog, say like you do some writing, you're very passionate about writing, or you're passionate about the topic of technology. Say you did do some writing, you could have this blog post or a reflection that you've done. You could include something like that as well. I would just show you, maybe you would put that, you might put on significant projects, probably in the significant project section. Just, you kind of have a project section. We had kind of an extra space. So I would just put it there and then that way people, you can learn a lot from someone just putting something like this. What could an employer learn from you about you if they saw this part of your digital portfolio called career aspirations, and you had, what do you think an employer would, what does an employer instantly know when you share that much? Like for this slide, let's say. Someone who's thinking about maybe hiring someone sees this slide, the value of troubleshooting in IT, lessons from my first help desk internship. What do you learn about the soft skills of that person or the hard skills? Like, what do you think an employer might think when they see that? Say they're looking for someone to hire as an IT intern, and they come across your LinkedIn profile. They say, oh, I see Michael's profile. And look, he has a digital portfolio. Let me look at his digital portfolio. And they click on the PDF link and they open it up. And he has this section called Career Aspirations. And he has this document. I mean, this piece of text says, the value of troubleshooting in IT, lessons from my first help desk. And he writes a narrative about his time working at a company. And he writes about what he learned, what he didn't learn. What does that mean to a potential employer when they
actually very serious about this
Mm-hmm.
type of work?
Yep.
And that you are like genuinely have an interest in it.
And it begins with R.
So that can
Yep.
be a good option.
And also by writing this, it shows that you're passionate,
Yeah.
but you're also reflective. So you're thinking about your experience, you're thinking about how you grew,
And
what you gained, so that you can
apply.
apply. Yep, exactly. You take it away, you're bringing it to the next experience, you're bringing that knowledge forward. This is something that this employer doesn't need to teach you how to be reflective and understand the value of an experience. You know, I'll be honest, I've worked with people before where like, maybe they didn't communicate certain things. And sometimes that happens a lot in IT. Sometimes you don't get extroverts, you get, introverted people. And sometimes it can be hard to know, what their skills are or what they're interested in. Ever talk to someone and say, are you interested in, networking? And they kind of don't give you a response. Like they're just maybe not very like interest, they can't communicate sometimes what they're saying. Well, when someone can communicate or is interested in telling, they're interested. And then you can then have a dialogue. So there's a lot of value here in the reflection, the skills going forward, and just the value that you see in understanding. Now, if he wrote during my internship, I really enjoyed sitting around all day and doing nothing. It was the easiest job I ever had. I really enjoyed getting paid for doing nothing while I was at the help desk because I didn't take any initiative. Maybe I don't want to hire him, but that's not what this is saying. This is saying, I quickly realized effective troubleshooting isn't just about fixing problems. It's about understanding what the user needs and how to communicate, which are key skills, and it shows that the soft skills, and the soft skills are often the hardest skills to have. Like just being a good customer service representative comes ahead of actually the technical. So it's very important to kind of communicate that and show an employer that if you can. And sometimes you won't know that from looking at a resume sometimes, right? So just to kind of conclude the components of this, I'll start at the top because I think I have something for pretty much everything. I'll take the job and career. I'll frame this a little differently and then we'll go on to the next item. But this is kind of like a personal branding statement. Now, with these statements, they're usually generally pretty broad. They, and they're going to change throughout your career. I'm going to take the term research and career goals, and my personal branding statement is essentially going to be my career goal because it's a little bit of duplicating. Those are two things that kind of are the same. So let me just scroll back down through the portfolio now. So just to summarize the portfolio, to summarize our portfolio here, we have, my name. You want to have a headshot, maybe not the AI dog. I just put that to kind of show you that you can change a picture. Kind of aspiring IT. I don't have the role yet, but I've interned and I've looked for opportunities. I have my About Me, which talks a little bit about my aspiration, but it also talks about, also has a list that links you to different slides. And this one, actually, the social proof, actually, when you edit it, you can actually go, just remember, you can link to any page in a document. I just chose to link to the last one, but you can set this up that way. Has a little bit of a goal. Then I have a skills and certifications page. You just want to make sure it's readable. I would probably maybe consider how I'm formatting this, just because I'm repeating words here, but you could put the skills term inside here. You can change the formatting. Just remember, if you want to change the color schemes, it's very easy. Click, and here is actually background colors. Just note, some of that stuff is available. If you wanted to change different schemes, just try to keep a consistent scheme. Mine's getting a little inconsistent as I'm demonstrating certain things. You also can add borders. So if you highlight an area of a square that we've made up here, I can add a border weight. I just made that like 10, and you have the border color. I can have the border color be gray, black, brown, and it will generally give you access, colors that accent your template, which is nice.
This is a resume as is right now. It's available here or on
This is the template. Yep.
Because my template is empty.
Yep. So what I'd like you to do is essentially utilize that form we filled out and kind of start building yours out. And so what I'm recommending is using this document, this one where I've kind of outlined everything. I would recommend prior to going back to the template to just put everything onto a document. Just like this, just to kind of figure out what am I going to put. So, and then I kind of mapped out some of the sections just so people had ideas of what it could look like. And then when you're ready, take these sections, and what I was doing was copying and pasting them into the existing template.
Okay, what is that document?
It's linked right on the slide in the presentation. So if you go to the third slide, I believe, you should be able to access it. I'll go right to it in just a moment.
Yeah, I don't.
Yep. That's okay. I'll go back to it. So we have the skills and certs, then we have the projects and hands-on. So that would be, you might want to format this where I reduce some of the bolding just to highlight the skills in a small project. And there's that. So that highlights people's knowledge. Now your employer also knows certain specific things. Potential future employer knows certain specific things. I also think that this is a good practice maybe before you update a resume, because this might be easier for you visually to actually identify things to add to a resume, just as a thought process. You might think about it easier, and then you can add all these new skills to an existing resume. And then I have the professional summary, which is very helpful for a resume if you haven't done it before. And then the personal branding statement, which is basically, what you're passionate about, what you're looking for, and what you feel is important to you. The career aspirations is kind of a reflection. If you were to ever have one, maybe if you'd ever written a blog or something that shows your ability to reflect on the skills you've learned. For example, I could ask you all to hypothetically write a reflection on your experience today, right? And you should all have something different to say, right? Like, oh, I'm really interested in this. I'm interested in that. I learned this skill, this strengthened that skill. Now that type of reflection shows that when you're in an experience of learning new things in a new environment, like that you're aware, you're open, you're trying to grow. Then the social proof and recognition is social links like LinkedIn or other portfolios. You could have a GitHub, you could have anything that connects people to social networks primarily for, work. And we talked a little bit about Instagram the last time is, if you could have a work Instagram, you could just Instagram focused on work projects. Like I could have an Instagram for our class. Wouldn't that be funny? I should. You want me to have an Instagram for the class? It would be kind of fun. Just to post like a picture of the key skill for the class or something. It'd be kind of interesting. You want me to try to do that? It'd be kind of funny. Because I was talking to someone about this last night, like just capture an idea with a picture. At least you might remember one key aspect, I'll think about that. Maybe I'll do that today. All right, then a social proof. All right. So that is that. And those are the components. And if you put those together with a resume cover letter and a template that you like, what you would do after it's all together here's how you turn it into a site or a website. You take the share, you can create a public view link. That's how I shared the presentation with you today. You can create that link. All right. I can copy the link and then share it anywhere. What I would do if this was my work portfolio is I would go to share. I would go to the download option. And under the download option, it gives you different options. You can do a picture, a JPEG, a PNG, PDF standard, PDF print, SVG, MP4 video. You could also make a video of the whole thing. Like if I do video and download, it's actually going to make the video, which is one option. You could literally put it on your YouTube account and link the YouTube video as your portfolio if you wanted to. That's one option. I would probably, unless I was going to narrate over the video, let's actually see what the video is. It probably is a video with 5 seconds of, so it's a 40-second video. Let me just share this. Let me just share the video. So let me share this. So it will export the video in like 5-second increments for every slide there is. So it makes a 40-second video. And then it's going to play each slide, looks like maybe 3 to 5 seconds. 5 seconds, yep. And it will play through it, and it makes it readable. People can pause it whenever they want, if they wanted to. And it's literally, you can make it a YouTube link. That's one way, okay? And this will scroll through the entire presentation. That's one option. The other option that I recommend is probably the easiest, or the easiest to kind of show is, so this was the share. So we just showed the download, and when you go to the download, you have the PNG, PDF standard, PDF print, MP4, which is the video, which I just showed you. I would do the PDF standard. And what you do with the PDF standard is then you get the links, are actually working links, and then you download. It says all pages. You could take out pages if you didn't want to keep them in the portfolio and hide them in the export. You can remove certain pages. But when you do the download, you then get the PDF. I would then upload the PDF to Google Drive. So I have this PDF version now, which is kind of cool and easy to read, right? It's very easy. People can just click between the slides. Take this version and then upload it to Google Drive and share the link. Yep.
Question, like, sometimes you read articles where they say like, oh, make sure you have one page
Resume?
resume. So if you can.
But this isn't a resume.
Yeah, I know. This
Yep.
is a digital portfolio, but if we make a version of this, but like concise, just for.
You could do a one-page.
Format. Just
You
everything.
You could.
Yeah.
Now there's pros and cons. So I would say you can. The value, there's multiple values. So let me just make sure I'm sharing. So there's a couple ways to think about it. So a resume is designed to be one page, ideally, for viewability. And also it's what you're using to actually apply for the job. So when you apply for the job, you are going to want certain terms in the resume. You're going to want to be very specific and descriptive, exactly to what you're going for. The cover letter needs to also be tailored for the job as well. The digital portfolio, probably because we're not moving enough to get a little dark. The digital portfolio is more about, it's being a portfolio. It's more about introducing you, but showcasing skills you have in a way that makes you stand out and making you, because some people, it's very hard with the traditional resume sometimes to stand out because of the way traditional resumes are. And this is also something that is passively going to be on, and some people are very visual. So you could use this digital portfolio as a link on the top of your resume. So say you're in an interview and you're saying, oh, I just can't, maybe you updated your resume and they ask you about this experience doing projects at your job. You could include pictures for that project on a digital portfolio and say, oh, by the way, if you want to learn more about that experience I'm telling you about, you can see it at this link. Also, on platforms like LinkedIn and other social platforms, people like the visual engagement. So it's a way of kind of just getting to know you and what you're passionate about without it being like a cold, dry resume. Because in a lot of resumes, there's not a lot of room to kind of show what you're looking for. And also, people who can articulate what they're looking for better, I think, get what they want. People who can't articulate it struggle because they're always kind of deciding. So yes, a resume, especially entry level, cover letter, one page. If you have not updated your resume in a while, I definitely think this process can help you because you are identifying certain things that would be an update to the resume. Particularly when we look at, all of these sections. These would be really good sections to update in a resume. You could basically add these to a resume, trim them down. You might not put all of that, but you might use a line or two of the summary. You might use some of these new skills. These would be great for the ATS readers in the resume to understand. You might have had a new work experience that you need to add to the resume. You might have had a new project that helps you. Remember, especially if you're changing careers, you want to establish these other projects, new certifications, new technical skills. And remember, it's not supposed to be read like a cold resume, and we'll take the contact information. This is not my real contact information, but you want to make sure there's contact information on your portfolio as well. But it's not designed to be the resume. It's designed to showcase you, your growth, your skills in a visual way so people can kind of understand where you're coming from. Because that's the benefit of like platforms like LinkedIn is, and I'm just going to make a contact page at the end of this, is people are there to engage. I don't go on LinkedIn to read people's resumes. People do share their resumes and you can export versions of your resume from, this is not my LinkedIn either, but you do want to have a contact page is my point for including this. But at the end of the day, people go and use LinkedIn to engage, network, meet people, learn about people, and go forward. You do want to be careful of, hackers or AI people or people with false opportunities, but I think that's becoming more common, but you have to continue to put yourself out there. It's the way that people find people. So it is a separate thing, but also updating your resume, I would say that's a challenge for a lot of people. So I do think if you're going to kill two birds with one stone, you could make a digital portfolio, and at the same time, this document right here really is the main things you should be updating on a resume. The new skills, the new certifications, the new projects you may have done, any new information, a new approach to how you're doing things. Like that would be what a resume update would be, So in terms of like fast tracking, because sometimes you can look at your old resume and go, oh my God, look what I have to update. And I would actually recommend trying to update your resume. If you're searching for a new opportunity, I would recommend updating your resume every 6 months, 3 to 6 months, just because things get old very quickly. And also you want to be able to like stay flexible, because you're going to want to be able to make changes. And sometimes what I've noticed with updating a resume is, say I decide to add these 2 lines or whatever, it changes the whole nature of the resume. Like maybe I didn't say anything like that anywhere else before. So you also want to bring cohesiveness to the other older parts. And you might even take something off your resume in order to make it one page, that doesn't apply anymore. Like for example, that volunteer opportunity I was talking about. If I don't have space anymore, I won't include it, because I could include it, somewhere else. It's not as important anymore if you've replaced the experience with something that's sometimes better, or has more impact. So that would be our update of those. So thank you for going through that with me. Any questions on this portfolio piece? I just felt like we needed to kind of close the door on it a little bit in terms of like what it looks like, in terms of if you're going to do it, and what it would include and what it would look like, and how to add the components, and then really think about how you're going to fine tune it. But definitely consider it. It's like always think about it as like a little bit of a working project. This is like a Saturday morning, put some things down on a document and go from there. All right. 2-minute mental break. How are we doing? I see people doing their CompTIA. That's good. Here we go. So, so far, foundations of boot camp, essential components of the digital portfolio covered. Here are the 2 links just to kind of review those slides. All right. Very important piece. So if we could get everyone to kind of chime in here at some point, active participation on this one, because this is going to help you. This is what I think most people, this is the easiest way to get certain questions correct. And I know I talk about it when we see these questions and we go through the questions, but understanding the troubleshooting methodology is essential, okay? Because if you don't understand these parts, you're going to get some very simple questions wrong. And I'll tell you what, learning these 5 or 6 things is going to give you 3 or 4 questions correct without even knowing the technical answer. It's just knowing the process, okay? It's really just the process. Now, the CompTIA, this is a really important piece. So, as we review questions, I think the best questions that we review, like you'll hear me say, this is the troubleshooting methodology. And you are going to find questions that are going to ask you to either determine the next step in the troubleshooting methodology and what is the next step, or you're going to be asked what is the current step that's happening. And you're also going to be given questions that give you a scenario, and you're going to need to like break down the scenario in a work environment. And that, so it covers a couple different, the troubleshooting methodology covers multiple areas of the lessons. You'll see it covers early on with hardware. There's hardware questions. Then you're going to hear there's networking questions in troubleshooting. And then even near the later lessons, like the ones 19 and 20, they're going to ask you about business processes. And so with business processes, you need to understand, like this is an easy way to understand them, okay? So I came up with a series of questions that I thought would, in just a series of 5 or 6 questions, just reaffirm and strengthen your understanding. Because often when we get this question, it's like one question and then we're on to a different type of question. So I wanted to do 5 or 6 questions in a row, so that you got in your head, this is the correct step. All right. So let me actually show this larger to you. I just want to make it bigger. All right. So the CompTIA troubleshooting methodology period is identify the problem is the first step in any part of this. Next is establish a theory. All right. Next is test the theory. Then establish a plan, then implement a solution, and then verify the function, and then document the process. So what I was telling people on the call the other night, so if you get a chance to watch the video, there's a question where we go into it. And I think one tip to help you, like a simple tip to help you kind of remember all of those 7 steps. This won't help you remember all of them, but it will help you on some of the questions. Remember, the first step is always identify the problem, and the last step is the documentation. So when you work on a technology team, there's something called a knowledge base. And a knowledge base is basically a collection of like what the tech team knows about how to solve problems. So whenever you solve a problem, you document it so that, you have it to go back to. So I think it's helpful just when you have a troubleshooting question on the CompTIA, you remember, okay, no matter what, the first thing I need to do is identify it. And the last thing I do is document it. And then what I feel like is the establish a theory, test the theory, establish a plan, and implement the solution, and verifying the functionality is all kind of the guts. And you might be forced to like figure that out, but you won't miss the question on knowing that documentation is the last step, because often it kind of like stands out. And then also you won't miss that introductory questions on just identifying the problem. All right, so here we go. A user submits a ticket stating that their internet connection is not working, but they haven't mentioned any troubleshooting steps. What is the next best step? What do we think? What is the next best step?
We'll ask to restart the development.
Which letter? D. Anyone else agree with D? Which one? B. So we have B, D, definitely not close the ticket. And definitely it's the escalation is not necessary yet. So that's that term escalate, right? That we keep coming across. All right, here we go. Answer is D. Ask the user to restart the router. So you're going to confirm that restarting the router solves the issue. Now, the important part of each one of these questions is the kind of the rationalization that I'm going to give at, so often, answering the question is great, but I want to reaffirm the process. So this is identifying the problem. So basically by confirming and restarting the router resolves the issue, you're basically, gathering another piece of information to attempt to the solution. Now, the one Natalie said is also a good answer, and it will get additional information. So, you may see a question that actually would include what Natalie said as well. So I don't want her to feel like there are multiple ways to gather information. So just keep that in mind. All right. So that one addresses gathering information is often identifying the problem. Okay. If you need more information. All right. Next question. All right. A user reports that a software application crashes every time they try to open it. The error message says file not found. What is the next best step? Reinstall the application, verify that the user has the correct file location or permissions, escalate the ticket to the software vendor, restart the user's computer.
I would say B. D as
B?
David first, but then I would say B for the second and third is the A.
I think it's B the boy.
Okay, verify that the user.
B?
Which one do you think?
B the boy.
B. All right, let's see what we got. It is B. Verify the user has the correct file location or permissions. So the rationale is the error message indicates a potential issue with file access or location. Checking permissions or confirming the file's existence can help determine the root cause before reinstalling or escalating. So that is an error message. I just want to address the essential next steps. So it's acquiring more information or it's testing the solution, right? It's determining a cause before escalating. So, and we know that's going to take different steps. So good job. I know we're on that one. A support ticket indicates that a user is unable to log into their account and their username and password have been verified as correct. What should you do next?
God, what do you do? It was all butter with the lights on.
What are you thinking?
It's B.
B. Check the account lockout or permissions issues. Any other thoughts just before I scroll down? A. Reset the password.
I would say C.
Close.
I say C.
All right. So a support indicates a user is unable to log in. B, check the account for lockout or permission issues. Rationale: if credentials are correct, the next logical step is to investigate whether the account is locked or lacks proper permissions. This avoids unnecessary password resets.
Yeah, work is sometimes
Happens
just
all the
don't
time,
have
yeah.
access to basic things and you have to get information.
and I would add to this the same thing that she's describing in her environment, like, yeah, access. Yes, you have limited access, and sometimes people think they have access to things they don't, and then they think there's something wrong. And the worst thing a technician can do sometimes is make a change, an unnecessary change to a password, because then that sometimes creates another problem somewhere else eventually. And also the person, it's a settings or an access issue. So that's where understanding the environment is important. All right, here's a printer one. A ticket states that a printer is not responding on a user's computer, but the printer works fine for others in the office. The user has already tried restarting their computer. What is the next best step? Reinstall the printer drivers. Any other thoughts? I have to be guilty of D at certain times. Just
What a faster solution, that's right.
well, I think I've tried. This is actually a really good question because this happens all the time. And we'll go to the answer before I go back to like why this is a good question, but it's a good question because it happens all the time. So let's take a look. A, reinstall the printer drivers. So a ticket, that is probably the best rational solution. If the printer works for others, the issue is likely localized to the user's system. It's really true. Reinstalling or updating the printer drivers can resolve printer-related problems. I mean, I also think it is, if possible, if it's like a local printer, like it's literally in the room. I do think it's worth powering the printer on and off sometimes. I've had that fix the problem before. I mean, even, the drivers are generally the issue. I would say with my technicians, definitely. Print drivers and also print server. So just remember your printers are going to be in certain organizations on a server, and that's going to be a big part of it. And also people adding the wrong printers.
You gotta point to them.
Yep.
To
the right printer that they have access to. And people might be able to print in color, people might be able to print in black and white, and they might not be able to do both on one machine. So depending on how it's set up. So, this is one of those, what is the next best solution? But I will say, this is a great question because it happens all the time. People sometimes dodge it because a technician will often not do this correctly. This is a great also interview question, actually. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't get this on an IT interview for an entry-level position. Your best answer is the print drivers because it sounds like you're thorough. Because if you say restart the printer or try printing from another computer, it's going to sound like you're a little sloppy. When you have to install the drivers, it shows that you are thinking about the technology, you're thinking about the hardware, you're going to do your best to update the drivers, make sure everything's functioning properly. It's the best answer. Now, in certain circumstances, there might be a chance something else works, but if you're in an interview situation or on a test, you know what I mean? Like, it's the best answer. But it happens all the time, so people get a little sloppy.
And sometimes you have to go from the very basic.
Yes.
Is the USB or whatever.
Yeah.
Or the cables are connected. For
And
example, it's turned on. The very basic things start from that way,
then go forward. And that's another thing for an entry-level IT interview is if you know that question and you've never worked in an environment with networked printers, like, that's a great question to know, because the only way you learn the right answer to that, other than taking a course like CompTIA, is work in the environment. So there's an exact question where you could see it on a job interview, like, what's the best solution? And you say you have never worked in IT before, but you knew the answer. Your ability to explain that answer in an interview and do the right answer is better than someone who's worked in an environment and gave the wrong one, or one that's sloppy.
I've been in print shops before,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they have, the technicians that are trained by the brands that they carry, right? And they go to the place and they change the rollers, they put all the machine apart and they put it back in, and, there's the software, the communication with the machine, there's another story, and, it's very specific to that,
To that
special
setup.
training.
Yeah. And I was explaining to them, I was showing them a printer in the hallway, and I was explaining to them like good entry level opportunities are managed print companies who do print service. Because not only will you learn a ton about troubleshooting printers and different types of printers, you're going to learn about the network, you're going to learn about printer hardware, you're going to learn about drums and rollers, and you know what I mean? Like, and it's a great entry level job. You're also going into other business environments. So like you're seeing like a bunch of different types of setups, and I mean, think about the people that you're going to meet, like you could network literally through that job. Like just if you're a great technician, because you're going into someone's building, you're helping service something, making sure it works. You're learning. I think that's probably one of the best potential like level of skill needed to get the job, and also amount of experience with what you're going to get. Because I think it's very valuable. Like imagine there's a big difference between a technician who works in one location and understands like there's technicians hired for spaces this big just because someone to manage it. Like you're going to learn a lot about this size space, but that's it. You're going to learn about one type of printer, one type of desktop, one type of laptop, the Wi-Fi. If you go into other environments, you're going to get a basic idea of a lot of different environments. So, and especially with printers, who are different type of printers, different type of drivers, different type of drums, rollers, fusers, all of that, you're going to be able to be troubleshooting so frequently, you're going to get so good at it that that's going to translate to so many other things, and it's going to build really good troubleshooting habits so that you're going to save yourself and a lot of other people time. It's a great skill. And you're going to get paid for it. I mean, probably not the highest level of pay because you're entry level, but you're going to get bang for your buck on your skills. And, a year doing that is going to teach you more than probably any certification would, and you're going to get experience. Are you going to grow out of it? Yes, but you grow out of everything, so just, it's a really good kind of opportunity to learn things. And things are always changing too. So a user submits a ticket complaining that their laptop battery drains quickly. Even after fully charged, they've already replaced the battery, but the issue persists. What is the next best step? Recommend replacing the laptop charger, perform a diagnostic test on the laptop for power issues, ask the user to update their operating system, close the ticket, and classify it as unresolved.
This is the fun one. This is the fun one. So,
yeah. So I think
it's A.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but I think it's
I say B. B for board.
It is B. Perform a diagnostic test on the laptop for power issues. Since replacing the battery did not resolve the issue, a hardware or software diagnostic is necessary to identify underlying management or hardware issues. And laptop batteries, they present their own type of issue. I mean, once you realize they're draining quickly, it's generally on older hardware or on a newer piece of hardware that can come with a bad battery. Sometimes I've had new laptops shipped with bad batteries. They have to be replaced right away. But what do you do when something ships with a bad battery, do you think? Yeah, you just return it. Yeah, you ask for the return because you don't want to crack it open. Like, it's easier just to submit a return. You get the, I email the vendor and I tell them we're sending 3, can I get boxes for 3 things? And they got to send the boxes. So it's, you don't want to have technicians opening and fixing things that are covered under warranty if you don't need to. Push the work where it needs to go. Here's our final one. So a user reports that their email inbox is not receiving new messages. Upon investigation, you find their mailbox is full. What should you do? Delete all their emails to free up space. Guide the user on archiving or deleting old emails. Escalate the ticket to the email server administrator. Ask the user to check their email settings.
B for boy.
What are you thinking, Katya?
It could be some boxes have some settings.
Some people do have weird settings.
But probably, maybe, like the user on archive or deleting all the emails.
What's your guess, Katya? Do you have a guess you want to go with? Okay. Now, I'm making Katya guess because I'm pushing her. Because if she doesn't guess, I want her to see when she gets things correct. Because she needs to know that guessing is the first. Like, if you're not sure, guessing is it's not that you don't know, it's just that you want to, if you're going to be right, don't you want the credit when you're right? If you feel like something's right, you want the credit. So make sure you're guessing. You know what I mean? That's why I push people in the calls to guess, because like, if you're not sure, a guess is not just a guess. It's usually an you have an educated guess. You're thinking about the question. So like, don't ever bail on a question because you just don't want to guess, because guessing is important, because there's usually a reason why you pick what you pick. And I just want you to try out the reasons why you pick what you pick, because it's important to try those out to build your confidence. Because if you start getting some right, then you're like, okay, I'm on the right track. If you're guessing all the time and then you're like, oh, don't let that frustrate you either. You kind of have like backtrack a little. So okay, so what was it? B, guide the user on archiving or deleting old emails. All right. The rationale: a full mailbox prevents new mail, I guess. Assisting the user in managing the storage resolves the issue. I mean, yes, but I would say that's probably the best next first step, but probably not the issue. Depending on the storage options for the user. I mean, most educational or institutional accounts have like unlimited storage. I would say usually a email server issue, like sometimes, like I've seen this issue, it was years ago. I'm trying to think. But email was a little different then too.
Yeah, there was at some point years ago, there's some limitations or X amounts, and you could set different amounts, but I haven't seen those lately.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while. I think what it is like services like Google and Microsoft have kind of just expanded it to the point where that's not an issue anymore. And I also think they've changed the way they handle like email and archiving emails. So cloud computing, I think, changed it a lot. So here's a little review slide. Now, the review slide here is the most important slide, actually, like to conclude what we just did. So why I wanted to do what we just did was because those were 6 questions that the essential point of each question was to identify like the next step, or what was the best step. Now, that's going to depend on the situation, right? Now we get to review where does that step connect to in terms of the troubleshooting methodology? So I just want to kind of drill this a little bit. So because this is going to help you when you get that troubleshooting question. So on question 1, we wanted to confirm if restarting the router resolved the issue. That was identifying the problem, okay? Essentially just what is the issue. On question 2, that was checking the file location or permissions when it didn't work. That was establishing a theory. Why is it not working? All right. On question 3, when you investigated the account or the permission settings, you were testing the theory to see if the cause was working. When you reinstalled the drivers on the printer, you were implementing a solution to verify the functionality. When you ran the diagnostic to identify hardware or system levels issues, you were establishing a theory of probable cause. When you were guiding the user on managing their email, you were implementing a solution based on what you knew. So each one of those, now I don't have document the process in there, but what you need to just think about those questions and how each one of them kind of pushes you for each one of those troubleshooting steps, because you're going to find questions that are going to ask you why you're doing those specific things so that you understand that process. Now, of course, in all of these, at the end of process is documentation. And documentation is really important, but also kind of a challenge thing. Tech teams don't always like to do it, I'll be honest, from your end. So what I'd like to do, so basically I'm going to have you evaluate an entry-level IT job posting. All right, you're going to fill a form out for me. And it's going to ask you, how does this job align with your current skills, academic background, and your interest? It's going to ask you, which of the responsibilities listed in the job description appeal the most to you, and how do they align with your goals? I will tell you, these are abbreviated descriptions, so they're not massively long, but I think they're effective and will get the point across. What technical and soft skills you already have that match the job requirements, and are there any other skills you need to develop further? What is your impression of the company's reputation? There's not a lot of description of company reputation, but do your best with this. I want you to kind of extract what you think would be important about a company's reputation, maybe with this, to the job. Does the job description mention opportunities for training, mentorship, or career advancement? How do these opportunities align with your professional growth? There is no salary number. So it does say, how does the offered salary, benefits package, work-life balance meet your expectation? I would assume with most of these jobs, assume 55 to 70K, okay, in terms of a pay. And all 4 of them could range in that range. What relevant certifications, project, or coursework could you highlight in your application to demonstrate your ability? And how does this position, I would say this is probably the most important, how does this position fit into your long-term career aspirations? And what aspects do you find the most exciting? So whenever you look at a job description, these are kind of some good key questions that you should ask yourself. So I have 4 descriptions. So I'd like you to pick one of these and focus on it. So the first one is a regular help desk technician, motivated. I'll read just the job description and then for each of them, and then I'll give you the form, and then we can kind of do the form and talk about it a little bit. We are seeking a motivated IT help desk technician to provide first level technical support to end users. The ideal candidate will troubleshoot hardware, software, and network related issues, ensuring timely resolution of user problems. The next one is a junior network administrator. Join our team as a junior network administrator to assist with maintaining and optimizing our IT network infrastructure. This entry-level role offers hands-on experience in network troubleshooting and administration. Then there's IT support specialist. To join, we are looking for an enthusiastic IT support specialist to help our growing team. In this role, you will support users by resolving technical issues and maintaining systems operations. And then the final role is entry-level cybersecurity analyst. Launch your cybersecurity as an entry-level cybersecurity analyst with our team. You play a critical role in monitoring and protecting our organization from cyber threats. So here is the form I'd like you to complete, considering one of these positions. So why don't you take 10 minutes to complete this form.
Where is that?
It's linked right on the Canva. You should be able to access it on the white slide, slide 25. I don't know if you see the number. There should be an embedded form that you can fill out. It does ask for your email. So just to review the questions, you're gonna pick a role. You're either gonna have a role that is, I'm sorry?
When you have a chance
Yep.
later,
Okay, the presentation?
yeah, the form that you asked,
Oh,
number 25.
okay. Can people access the form okay?
Okay, so where am I going to get the form again?
So there's how to review a job posting is this slide, and then you'll scroll down, and then there's 20 is the evaluating, and then there's 4 descriptions, one for the IT help desk, one for the junior net.
I can't scroll down on this thing.
You can slide across though, right? Let me see. So flip to the right, right on the bottom. The bottom is no, okay, there you go. Go to slide 25. And then click on it. You open that up? There you go. Yeah, so,
There we
yeah.
go. I didn't know it was a link.
So, reopen. Click on the essential components. And go to the bottom. And you go to 25. Yep, there's a little menu right on the bottom. Yep. Go up to 25.
You want us to pick any of them?
Yep, one of the 4. So, yeah, I just want you to start thinking like, if you were to apply for a job, what are you thinking about? And basically there's 4 options. And I specifically picked these 4 options because they're essentially very generalized descriptions of what you would see and probably be looking for. And just think of the options just to break them out. IT help desk technician, you're going to see descriptions that are help desk focused. Junior network administrator is someone who's thinking about networking primarily. IT support is a position similar to help desk, but has probably a little bit more flexibility working off the help desk, but still at the same level, probably around. And entry-level cybersecurity and analyst is someone who's, really targeting cybersecurity, thinking about cybersecurity. So these 4 roles are, I would say, the entry-level cybersecurity, as much as it's probably the most interesting, these jobs are hard to come by at entry level like this. So they come and go very quickly, because as much as cybersecurity is a very in-demand field, there's not as many quick pathways to entry-level roles, because there's a lot of crossover in the skills where people in existing roles have been acquiring cyber skills to kind of support their company, but at the same time, they're not necessarily identifying as many of these roles at this level. There are some higher level cybersecurity roles like but they require more skills than a lot of entry-level roles have. So you generally need to get past an entry-level role to get into a cyber role, which kind of presents issues for people excited about cybersecurity but at entry level, because you kind of probably are more likely going to be in one of these other roles prior to getting the cyber opportunity. So it's, how do you get the cyber opportunity? So you may start as a junior network administrator or an IT support specialist, but continue to work to adapt your skill set to get more cyber skills, to then be in a position to get a cyber like mid-career, like a mid-tier role. So you're going to need some experience. You're not going to be put into a position to do a lot of cybersecurity work without having some entry-level network and support experience. Basically, you need to kind of like get that experience. But this is just really so that you can, and I can make sure everyone gets their responses, but this is really to help you kind of envision what you want to do and how you want to do it. And I can help you kind of pull this together before the 17th too, for some sort of next steps. But I think it's just, you got to verbalize it, write it out, kind of think about it, and we can review the questions together and go through. But just do your best to kind of do like a 5-minute, 10-minute version. And then I would like to do a very quick series of mock interviews.
Professor, did they say what time lunch is?
No, they're never going to tell us. It's a secret. They told us we had to finish our mock interviews before we could eat.
What?
Whenever it comes. When I look at these questions, just as you're working through them, they're designed just to get you, I want to activate you just like what, eventually you're going to be looking for a work. Eventually you're going to be looking at different roles. So I want you to know what the differences are, So if you're looking at a job posting, how do you break it down and deconstruct it? What are the skills? What is it saying to you? That's why I didn't want to give you like a really lengthy job posting, because it would just be too much information. These are kind of abbreviated postings that are designed just to give you a taste of positions that you would be thinking about primarily, what they would involve, and kind of align with our SMART goals. So we have our SMART goal. You have your interest in applying for a position. And then you have what you believe are your strengths and weaknesses going forward. And also it's also making you aware of the responsibilities. And, when we come back, we'll do the organizational chart, and then we'll do the hands-on a little bit. The hands-on won't take long. It'll take the time when we come back. It'll be fun.
Because they don't have experience.
That's okay.
For me, it's just like alien type writing this because I don't feel connected.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Yet.
Yeah, it's okay. Put in whatever you feel, because but remember, like, that feeling of not feeling connected yet is like, it's the first step. You know what I mean? You have to realize, like, I don't feel connected. Why do I not feel connected? Well, could be a lot of reasons, like on a day-to-day basis, like, you have to think about what your next step is. That's the thing. And then keep it easy on yourself what that step is. 1 to 2 more minutes. 1 to 2 more minutes. Just give like a quick, Michael, were you able to submit? How are you doing?
I'm very confused on what kind of stuff I'm supposed to be writing.
So which role are you thinking about? like of the 4 job descriptions. So the first thing is identify a job description. So there's, we went through each one. So there's 4. So it starts on 19, and then it goes to 20 is the full list of questions. The first one is the IT help desk technician. The second one is the junior network administrator. And the third one is get to where it is, IT support specialist. And then there is the entry-level cybersecurity role, entry-level cybersecurity analyst. So you're to pick one of them. And then on slide 25, there's a form, and I think there's 8 questions, very simple questions. It's just based on the job description you're thinking of. You know, reflect on, like, why does it fit with your interests? You know, you don't have to write paragraphs, just like, you know, I'm interested in cybersecurity because of blank. I'm interested in IT support, you know, just really interested in hardware more than software. I'm interested more in helping people and getting a role in tech. I think it'd be rewarding. You know, in terms of the responsibilities, I think I'm good at customer service. You know, I have skills in customer service. I think that would help me win that job. You know, even though I may not have the technical skills right now, I have some soft skills that I think add to my work. The customer service, the teamwork, collaboration skills. And what is your impression of, you know, and in terms of the company question, what I want you to think about is like, what type of company do you want to work for? Potentially, you know, you could throw that in that question. Like, do you want to work for a corporation? Do you want to work for a small business? Do you want like a happy-go-lucky culture? Do you want something very professional? What's best for your career? You know, what's going to give you the best skills? And also, does the job description mention like growth for you? You know, if it doesn't, okay, maybe it doesn't. You know, do you think you need one that gives you growth? And in terms of the salary, I basically said that you could imagine every one of these ranging from $55,000 to $70,000 probably, depends on the role. But starting at 55, probably going to 70, depending on the skill set. And then there is the relevant certifications. So do you feel like the certifications you're working on basically are supporting this? Is the projects you're working on supporting this? And how does it, and I think the most important question is the last one. How does it fit into your long-term goal? All right. So, you know, does it make you think about what you want to do next? Oh, there you go. You can take the whole thing. So how does it fit into your I think that's the most important question just for people to think about. Long-term goal. So like last time we were here, we set a SMART goal. So how does this fit into your long-term goal?
So all 4 of these just like the starter job?
Yep.
Okay.
So you're just picking one, and then what I'll do is I'd like you to start the mock interviews while I go get the food. And then I want you to think, you know, I made the mock interviews super short, okay? Because I think it's gonna be better as a small group and also just for conversation that they're short. And I think that's gonna actually be good.
For some reason, this every time we leave that form,
It closes?
it erases everything.
Oh, I mean, maybe I can change that setting.
Yeah.
I can change the setting. good job with those questions. Okay. I'm sorry, what's your first name again? I'm sorry. Your first, yeah. Rosie, okay. See, we should meet in person more. I would know the names better.
Yeah, no, I'm very bad with like.
I know.
And all that.
Like putting the name to the face is like,
Yeah, no, I'm so.
and I start like making up faces in my mind, like.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Especially when like we have no cameras on the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm just like sitting there. I'm just like, oh my god, I cannot put a face to a name, and then I'll be in other things like on calls with people, and I'll hear voices, and I'll be like, okay, which voice was that? Which
Exactly.
voice was that? Like,
I know.
It's so difficult for me. Like I recognize the voice, and then I'm just like, okay, voice and name. What's going on here?
Okay. So we'll make this like a little bit of a lunch activity as well. We'll have lunch and we'll do this kind of at the same time, but you guys can start this as soon as you want to. I know you're working on that current form. I think you could do this and not have submitted the form yet if it helps. I do want you to submit the form today, but I think the mock interview might actually help you kind of think about some of the questions. So Michael and Rosie, why don't you two pair up for a mock interview? And then Katya and Natalie. It's okay. Yep. Take a few more minutes to type up. You don't have to write too much, just but kind of get the vision in there. I just want to introduce the mock interviews and then go check on the food. So I think it might, it could be fun to, do the mock interviews even while we have lunch or whatever we want to do. The mock interviews are very straightforward, but I feel like this is a really good in-person activity. And if you've never done a mock interview, it's a really nice thing to do in preparation, even on a very small scale for any job, and what I would say is anytime you have an opportunity for an interview or you're thinking about a job or career change of any type, a mock interview can be very powerful. And essentially what I've done here is I've put like 4 common questions for each of these roles. So what I'd like you to do is just for the person you're going to interview, and I know Natalie and Rosie are going to do each other, so they're going to have the same role. But I know there might be different roles that your people are thinking about. These are the questions. So for example, just to review common questions for different roles, just to kind of give you an idea, I think this may be more helpful than even describing the jobs in more detail, is for a help desk technician, can you walk me through the steps you would take to resolve a technical support ticket for a user who cannot connect to the network? How would you explain a complex technical issue to a non-technical user? I see that question all the time. What would you do if you encountered an issue that you were unable to resolve on your own? How do you prioritize multiple support tickets with similar urgency? That one's a very common question, especially for entry-level IT, because they want to make sure that you know how to prioritize your work. Next, for junior network administrator, describe the process you would follow to troubleshoot a network connectivity issue. How would you secure a new router or switch you've just configured? What steps would you take to document changes in a network configuration? How do you ensure a network's performance remains optimal during periods of high demand? For an IT support specialist, you'll see the similar to help desk. How would you approach diagnosing a system that fails to boot after a recent software update? Can you describe how you would handle a difficult or frustrated user while providing technical support? How do you keep up with updates and patches to ensure system security? What do you do if an issue you resolved recurs after a short time? And then for entry-level cybersecurity, how would you respond to a security alert indicating unauthorized access to a network? What steps would you take to identifying a vulnerability in the company's system? Can you explain how you would document and report a cybersecurity incident? How do you stay updated on emerging cybersecurity threats and tools? So what I'd like you to do is, with the other person, ask them the questions for their role as if you were interviewing them. Just the 4 questions. And when you're done with this, have that conversation. It's a 5-7 minute conversation, right? When you're done, we are going to do this one kind of reflection on this, but focus mainly for now on just having the really good dialogue with the person, asking the questions, and just the reflection is going to be about, just to give you a tip, it's going to be about answering, how do you feel about answering these questions? Do you feel like how do you do answering them? Which ones challenged you the most and why? And how effective do you feel like you were? And your partner should give a little bit of constructive feedback. So, just a little bit of feedback goes a long way. Be constructive, be helpful. Like, maybe if you utilize a little bit more technical term, the answer would be a little bit better, or maybe a little bit better if you utilize your soft skills and your collaboration skills, maybe in that answer, it could be a little more complete. So just practice the questions with each other. I'm going to go look for the food. But ultimately, right as when we're done with lunch, we can kind of do this kind of mock interview feedback, and go from there. But hop in, start your interviews. I'm going to go talk to the police and I'm going to go see if I can see what's up with the food, since I have not heard from people yet. So someday you'll have a real interview though, right? So just try it. That's why you do it. It's hard because it's hard for everybody. I mean, it's not easy, but just do your best. This is like a low stakes, very low stakes. Treat it like a conversation, because believe it or not, some of the best interviews are like conversations, okay? Treat it like I'm going to have a tech conversation with someone that are using these questions, okay? On which one? The form?
Yeah, the form is
Should be a button at the bottom.
okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Just give me a little bit of feedback on your mock interview. Just quick.
What? With
the mock interview questions. Like of course they're not questions that you're going to be fully prepared to answer, right? Like some of there's gaps, right? But it's important to understand some of the basic questions, because some of those are things that you're actually acquiring in this course. All right. Some of it's the troubleshooting methodology, and some of it's just how to best support and identify technology problems and implement solutions. Okay. So I want you to have that awareness. All right. Now I'm just going to go over, I included those questions on, so just to kind of I'm going to review the questions on the form. We don't have to go in depth with this. I just want to show it. So give me a quick, just how does it feel to do a mock interview in terms of feelings, in terms of your feelings when you do one, apprehensive, maybe how's it feel?
This one I didn't know for sure the answer by experience.
Okay.
So it was a little weird right away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone feel yeah, and I think definitely not know, that does make you more apprehensive, but I do want you to identify the questions, the text. I would look across, just as like a next step with the mock interviews, is look across all the questions and identify the ones that don't require any technical knowledge. And I would say use those as like a starting point, because what you'll realize is many of those are the soft skill related questions. And what you'll find is that the ones that are more technical are questions that are very scenario based. They come from experience that sometimes you'll have, sometimes you won't. But the way that you answer the question is incredibly important. So I do think it's the framework too. So there is an element of practice as you gain experience. What was the most challenging question to someone? Did anyone have like a question that was like super challenging?
How you do things if that happens.
Okay.
And because I didn't have a real scenario yet
Mm-hmm.
to
base it off of. Yep.
Make sense.
Yep.
I just answered generically.
Yep. And that's natural. But that's the good thing to prepare for. If you ever are in a situation where you're going to go in for an interview and you feel unprepared, knowing that you might get a question like that is helpful for you to say, maybe I should research a scenario and come up with a solution. Even if it's something that you've researched, you have something to speak about, because someone might be just waiting to understand that you know how you could handle it, where some people might be frightened by the issue and run away, right? So what is one strategy to be prepared for in the future that would help with a mock interview or an interview in general? Like if I told you all you had an interview 2 weeks from now for an IT position, what's something you would do to prepare?
I would, if it was me, just, study a little more. So the field that I'm applying for is network.
Mm-hmm. Just a little bit more prep.
Initially, like entry level position or whatever, I would study a little more the basics.
All right.
To have more idea.
What to prepare, yeah.
What to prepare, what to say, basically, right? Because it's an entry level, I have zero experience in, right?
And that's okay.
Yes.
Katya and Natalie, in 2 weeks, you have an interview for an entry-level IT position. What is the one thing you would do to help you prepare for that interview? 2 weeks, you have 2 weeks, you want the job. It pays like way more than you make now, whatever it is. You want the job, you feel like you could get it. Like it's like it feels perfect. It's close to your house, it's convenient. They called you back, they seem like really nice people. What would you do? What would be like the thing you think to help you push you over the top to help prepare? Any idea?
I mean, I would look up basically this. I would look up the type of questions they would probably be asking me.
Yep.
Depending on the questions that they would probably be asking me,
Mm-hmm.
I will try to pinpoint scenarios from my life already.
Yep.
What I've done, what I've been through, anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Very good. That's a good answer. Yeah.
Typically, I would focus in on what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are,
Yep.
because they typically ask those questions.
Yep. Very good. Would you, yeah, and you got me thinking of another thing that you could do, because with all your preparation, that's really good preparation. Katya, how about you, before I suggest one thing? What would you do? What's something you would do? You really want the job. It's on your mind every day how much this job would be better. So you want to nail the interview. Yep, review the job description. Yep. Very good. Mm-hmm. Yep, kind of like put it together. Yep, exactly. That's good. Yep, the transferable skills too. Like, I've done this before, I can do this now. And one other thing you both, like anyone could do, is if you were on LinkedIn or a social platform for professional, you could reach out to someone maybe passively who works at the company, and maybe you might be connected to someone, and just take like the next step and maybe find out just a little bit about company climate and culture. Like, what is it like to work there? I think that helps in some of the stuff that you don't like, would never be able to guess, because as you prepare for an interview, like Natalie's got some great ideas around very specific things, and they're awesome. Like, you definitely should do those types of things. But what she's saying is also good for any job. Now, what happens is sometimes some workplaces are very unique, and things can catch you by surprise around company culture and climate. Like, oh, we don't do that here. And you're like, really? Or, so if you ever have a connection at the company, take advantage of it, especially if it's like a friend of a friend or anything, always to get a little bit more information. What was the most struggling part, and what kind of feedback were you able to get from your partner? Kind of combined answers. Where did you struggle, and where was your partner helpful? How is a partner helpful in this experience? How is doing it with a partner helpful?
Seeing how different your answers can be from one another.
Yeah, that's true.
Me and Katya, we have the same job choice, and her answer different. Like, most of her answers differ from my answers.
Yep, very good. That's a good point. And that's the benefit of doing it with a partner. Like, even if they're not going after the same answer, is like, you're going to learn from each other, like ways and approaches. How about you, Katya? How did Natalie help you?
She more understanding the theory, the need, what she had me all to present.
Okay. So she gave you some help with how to describe how to. Okay. Very good. So like, sometimes that's like the best stuff, because it helps you develop confidence towards, all right, maybe I would approach it this way and get started. Because that's the hardest part sometimes, is like, all right, where to start with something, especially technical, or, how do I begin to start? Very good. I knew you'd be very helpful for each other. So, all right. So that's a form, like, if you could fill that out, that'd be great. But I know we're running past time, so I just want to let you know that's available. The other thing I wanted to let you know is available here, since we talked about it, is I put in this organizational chart. All right. And I think this is helpful. All right. So let me make sure everything's working here. Let me show this to you. So real quick, before you go, I'm sorry for keeping you. This is a typical organizational chart for IT. All right. It has a chief information officer at the top, has 2 layers. This is not always how it is, but I kind of went with this one as a decent example. It has the CIO at the top, with an operations manager and an IT security manager. Below those 2 roles, you have these 3 roles of systems administrator, network administrator, and cybersecurity analyst. And then an additional 3 roles of help desk technician, junior network admin, entry-level cyber analyst, and IT support specialist. The things to think about with this is, what I'm drawn to in analyzing this is, this is a little more modern, maybe, an approach, in that it is very cybersecurity focused. And often you might not see the layers of IT operations manager and IT security manager. You will see maybe a CIO, you might see the IT operations manager, and then you would get into systems and network administration. In this particular organizational chart, you have the CIO overseeing IT operations and IT security, with IT security and operations also overseeing network administrator and the cyber, and with security also seeing cybersecurity. So there's a split in the middle here where the IT operations manager is managing more of the systems administration, help desk support, IT support, but also involved in the management of the network administrator and then junior network admin, because that's kind of the traditional role. The IT security manager is one of the newer, more modern roles, and that role is involved with overseeing the network piece because security is so connected to the network. But you have these new additional roles around cybersecurity analyst and entry-level cyber analyst. But more traditionally, you're going to see CIO, operations, then systems administrator, network administrator, all on that left side. The parts on the right side are generally some new parts that you might not find in every organization. So in my role where I work, I'm technically the CIO. And I don't have like an IT operations manager, but I have systems administrators who kind of operate similar to that capacity. So these are not hard and fast rules. They're just kind of like an understanding of a potential framework, okay? But I just want you to know about that. Then I put those roles and their descriptions here. CIO is definitely IT strategy, budget, and innovation. Operations is overseeing operations, of course, and manage workflows. Security managers focus on managing security policies and monitoring. System managers maintain servers and manage accounts. Managing network infrastructure on the network administrator. Help desk technician is the first level technical support. Junior network administrator is the assisting the technical and the network configuration. And then you have IT support, diagnosing hardware and software issues, and entry-level cyber analysts essentially monitoring for cyber issues. So I also included potential, types of support these roles provide. All right. Now, I have a document here that essentially provides questions, and we can use this in class to support what we did, and we can kind of, finish up with this activity. But I just want to show this document. Just something to review when you have a moment, because I do think it'll help your CompTIA work, this is a hardware and software station review. Essentially the hardware that we just reviewed, I've given you an activity for each one. So you have a desktop computer, and the question is how to, basically mitigate debris with components and what you would do and what the solution is. A laptop hardware activity, which forces you to kind of better understand laptop hardware and disk size. Then I have a VoIP phone activity for understanding VoIP and how to ensure call quality. A Cat5 cable and small switch around standardization. Here's the access point question. These are all questions from Core 1. Here's the RAM modules, VGA cable. And then I also have a series of software questions. Application not responding, what to do in that scenario, what's the best solution. System error message with a screenshot prompt of the critical process. Disk space low. Network connectivity issue. Missing DLL file in a system. Boot failure within a system. Driver updates, which we talked about with printing issues earlier. And a software compatibility issue. And these are all questions that are in the Core 1 and relate to software and hardware issues with the hardware that we looked at today. And essentially being able to diagnose and identify the issues. Thank you so much for today. Thank you for the extra time. I appreciate you just being able to bear with me through the end here. I'm very happy we were able to review the troubleshooting methodology. I do think that's something that, as a group, we needed, and going through those question types, because there are a number of questions that require you to basically better understand the troubleshooting methodology. And so I think that was really important information towards, moving to the next step. So I do think that's super important. Just when you get a chance, just to kind of review the entire presentation, just like if you go back to it and want to go back over anything to help kind of just understand things better from today, just to review the sections. It's pretty long, but I feel like we cover a lot and we do a pretty good job. So there's the essential link is here, the Bootcamp 2 DFE. I can email that out to everybody. We went over the essential components of the digital portfolio. So I think those are really important things to think about, how to organize them for yourself and get them into a digital format. We then reviewed the CompTIA troubleshooting methodology, which I think is very essential for a lot of questions. All right. We then reviewed 6 questions which required the use of the methodology. And after reviewing the questions which required the use of the methodology, we reviewed the methodology itself, so that we want to just keep reinforcing how to identify the problem, identify next logical steps. And also keep in mind that if you need that methodology broken out with the examples, I do have that on slide 18 here. I have the question, the answer, and the troubleshooting step and how it's generally written. So identifying the problem, establishing a theory of probable cause, test the theory to determine the cause, implement the solution, establish a theory, and then implement the solution. So there's different stages that are very important just while you look at questions. And I'm hoping that after today, like when you look at a question, you definitely know how to identify the stage. We looked at a job posting and got to think about like what types of jobs we're thinking about, what area we want to focus in. We looked at 4 different really important entry-level positions and looked at their responsibilities and requirements. We then also did the review of what those positions include, and we did a small mock interview with 4 key questions. The takeaway from the questions here is don't feel like you're limited by any one of these questions, but definitely with these questions, review them and understand these are some of the most commonly asked in IT. So you will hear them again as you kind of move closer to a role in IT. You will hear these questions again. Also, I think the value of a mock interview is incredibly important, especially if you have any type of opportunity. Definitely try to practice the interview process. I think there's the variety of perspectives, which Natalie and Katya were speaking about. There's also just, Rosie spoke about, just the value of thinking about her answer to something that maybe she hasn't thought about before. Very important in parts to just understanding roles and preparing for jobs, because that's essentially what you're doing by preparing, doing the CompTIA. And then we looked at the organizational chart. And with the organizational chart, this is not a chart for every organization, but it is to give you an idea of the structure of how IT organizations are set up and what the variety of roles do. Then there is the role, the responsibilities, and the types of services they provide. And then I have a series of hardware and software support stations. We looked at computer desktops. We looked at an access point. We looked at a server motherboard. We looked at RAM. We looked at VoIP phone. We talked about wireless connections in the classroom. We talked about cables, Cat5, Cat6 cables. We talked about the structure of a network, and we talked about how they're different in different environments. So, that's very important to just kind of getting the big picture. And if you want to conquer these questions, feel free to attempt to go through these questions. And thank you so much for a great day.